Sunday, the 5th of September. Well, our theme for today, favouritism. Oh, yes, we all know that word and we know it well because I'm sure we've all got favourites and sometimes we can show favouritism. Maybe it depends how we're feeling, what kind of mood we're in, where we are, or just whatever the reason, it can be shown. So I've brought somebody along today. Here he is. For those of you on the telephone, I'm really sorry you can't see it, but what I'm holding up is a brown bear. Quite a small brown bear, but this is my favourite cuddly toy. I got Brown Bear for my very first Christmas. Now that was what, 57 years ago? And I still have him with me. He's a bit battered. He's not too bad though. You know, he hasn't lost a lot of hair, but I think he's lost a tail or something there. And he's lost both eyes. I thought he had one eye. Oh, he's lost both eyes. His nose has been sewn up because it's been battered and bruised. And he's got a bit of a tongue and his lips are gone. But he's my Brown Bear. And that's his name. His name is Brown Bear. Never ever gave him a name, just always Brown Bear. And I said, Brown Bear's been with me practically my whole life. Why is he my favourite? I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea why I have kept Brown Bear all of these years. He's went from house to house when I moved as a child. And then when I got married, he came with me and he's been in every house with me. But why is he my favourite? I just have no idea. But I'm really partial to him and I wouldn't like to throw him out or get me any more damage than he is. We've all got favourites as in like a favourite colour. Well, I think most of you know my favourite colour is green, by far. That's my favourite colour. Do you have a favourite colour? Some people don't. What about a favourite hymn? Well, you all know my top two favourites are, of course, it's Hark the Herald, Angels Sing, and then In Christ Alone. They are by far my two outstanding favourites. But do you know what? There are so many that I could call favourites. And I'm sure you are just the same. It could be for anything. You know, a favourite Bible passage? Again, I've got quite a few of them. I really couldn't knuckle it down to just one. So I really do have quite a few of them. What about a favourite disciple? Out of all of Jesus' disciples, do you have a favourite that you think you're drawn to? Or is it just because that's the one you remember the name of? Because I'm sure that's the case as well. But we've got favouritism in all walks of life, in all different aspects of it. And, well, sometimes it's okay, but other times it's really not. So this week we are going to hear again, the passage is not from the Bible. It's a story based on that Bible passage. And the Bible passage, if you want to read it yourself, is James chapter 2, verses 1 through 17. But we've made it into a story today, and its story is entitled Be Fair, Be Generous. And Karen is going to read that story to us now.
Be fair, be generous. From James, a servant of God and Jesus. To the Jewish Christian communities scattered around Jerusalem, hello again, my sisters and brothers. Today, I want you to think about favouritism, and I have some questions for you. Ask yourselves, how do you judge people? By their clothes, their accent, their job, their possessions? What do you do if a person with gold rings and fine clothes comes to your meeting? Do you show them the best seat? And what do you do when a person who has dirty clothes comes and is obviously poor? Do you show them to the worst seat? Or suggest they sit on the floor? Do you favour those who look poor or rich? You ought to know by now that God always favours the poor and makes them rich, rich in faith and full heirs to God's kingdom. Remember, We are taught to love our neighbours, all our neighbours. Keep the law, don't twist it. And you are not to make a distinction between your faith and your actions. You need faith, my brothers and sisters, but you need action too. It's no good telling people to go in peace, keep warm and eat well, if they have no food or shelter. If someone is hungry, they need food. If they are cold, they need warm clothes and a warm home. It's obvious what you need to do. Share what you have and share it now. Enough for today. Be fair, be generous.
Thank you, Karen. Favouritism. I said that's what our theme was today. So the one thing that jumps to mind is, who was my mum's favourite? Now, I can't really speak for my dad because I think you all know that he died when I was just 8 years of age. But for mum, I had my brother, who was called Donnie, my sister, called Sandra, and then myself. Now, Donnie was 12 years older than me. Sandra is 10 years older than me. And of course, then there's me. Which one of us was my mum's favourite? Well, naturally, it was me. I was the baby of the family. But we all had our own place in mum's life. For example, mum was often ill and had to be taken to hospital quite often. And that was my sister's job. She was the one who stayed closest, and she's the one that my mum would phone. So she was her favourite in emergencies, because my sister would always drop everything and run because she was close at hand. My brother was probably her favourite because he was the only boy and her firstborn. I think most of the family would agree that I was her favourite. But there again, she often said, had she had not had me, when I was the age of 8 when my father died, she would have struggled so much more to get over my father's death in a road accident. But did mum have really any favourites? I don't think so. I don't think so. And then the same applies in our family. And I'm sure this happens in your family as well if there's more than one child. Because my children are always saying, who's your favourite mum? And it's either Scott or Joanne. Now, Scott believes that he's my favourite, and Joanne believes she's her dad's favourite. But like all of you, sometimes we don't like our children, maybe because they're cheeky, or they do something, you think, oh, what did they do that for? Or they annoy you for some reason. But do we show favouritism to our children? Well, I hope and pray not. For whatever one child gets in our family, the other child gets also. And then the same when Suzanne came into our family when she married Scott. Suzanne is treated as one of our own children, and she gets the same as what Scott and Joanne get. You can't show favouritism. And there really isn't any in our family. I would hope not. So, have a think about that yourself. Do you have favourites, especially in your family? Or not? Just have a real think about that. Are they treated the same? Because I know in some instances in families that's not the case. But why does a particular attribute tend to make other people look more favourably on that person? What is it about them that people favour about them and not the other person? What is it about our human nature that we so often seek to put some people on a pedestal? They're our favourites. We put them higher up. What are the average attributes that you think is good in people? I mean, what are they that you just think, oh, they're my favourite? And why are some attributes really revealing of something not healthy? Because that can be the case as well. We're drawn to people or a favourite, but there's something about them that's leading us maybe down the wrong path. And what pressures do we feel to conform to what others would see as favourable behaviour? Is it manners? Is it kindness? Is it generosity? Is it love? What is it? It really makes you stop and think. So have a think about all of that. And then, what are the forms of favouritism that you have actually witnessed yourself, either in your family or your friends' families or circles, or in school, or in workplaces, or in church? To whom have you shown favouritism to? Now there's another one. And when has someone shown you favouritism? And did you realise that's what it was? How did that feel? There must have been some real issues in the early Christian community to whom James was writing in relation to the double standards of behaviour for him to go so hard on the subject, and he really did go on and on about it. Many people inside the church and outside the church feel that there are cliques in the church. There's a good word for you. I think that must be a Scottish word, I think. And that some people show favouritism to others. And yet, it can happen, but often, one, they don't realise they're doing it, and two, they don't mean it to happen. For example, certain people in churches do the teas and coffees. And I know in our church, we would love more people to volunteer to take up this role after the morning worship. But maybe they feel, oh, they've got enough people doing it, or, oh, those people always do it. And then they hold back from volunteering to do that. Not just for the teas and coffees after the service, but in many roles and in many aspects of church life. Some people say only those and such as those can do something. That is simply not the case in church, and shouldn't be, and certainly not the case in East and Old. We want everyone to do their part and be involved. In East and Old, I'm sure there still are people, my apologies, who believe that maybe only those and such as those can do that or whatever. But that is simply not the case, folks. It's really not. I would love more of you to be involved in all aspects of it, from decision making to even just helping out for an hour or two on any given aspect of church life. We need to overcome people's perceptions of what favouritism is. So the message is clear, I believe, that we can betray our faith by actions that are hypocritical, by treating some people differently to others, and also by judging others. So, on that note, what is the most glaring hypocritical action that you have seen recently, either in church or out with it? Who can you think of who has been a positive role model in putting their faith into action? Today's reading ended with, "So faith by itself, if it has no works, is dead." Do you think that is true? And what does it actually mean to you? Faith is not something precious to be guarded and never tested, to be kept entirely to ourselves and never shared. Rather, it is to be lived out through our actions. It is a living faith, a faith that creates and enables what is life-giving. So I encourage you to think of this. Is there anything else that you can do this coming week about how you can act in a way that is life-enhancing, both for yourselves and for other people? We're now going to hear our prayer today, which is going to be led by Marion Duncan. And then after Marion has finished her prayer, Bob is going to lead us in our reflection. And the reflection today is one of our more modern hymns that we sing in the church.
Let us pray. How exciting would it be, Lord, if a celebrity were to come to our church? A real-life movie star like Tom Cruise, or a famous footballer like Cristiano Ronaldo, or a #1 pop star like Ed Sheeran, a really rich person, or someone famous like the Queen. We'd need to get the cleaner in to do extra shifts and make sure that none of the cups had cracks in them. Or maybe we should buy new china. And could we serve champagne instead of tea? Is that allowed? Would be on television and all over social media. The church would be full, and so would the offering plate. How embarrassing would it be, Lord, if you were to come to our church and find us making all this fuss about someone just because they were famous or rich? We know exactly what you would do. You would be out of the door and off to the nearest food bank before we could say, "Lovely to meet you." God, help us to value people just as you do, for what's on the inside and not on the outside. May our church be the sort of place where everyone can be sure of a welcome, especially you. Amen.
The reflection today are the words of hymn 685 from CH4. For everyone born, a place at the table. For everyone born, a place at the table. For everyone born, clean water and bread. A shelter, a space, a safe place for growing. For everyone born, a star overhead. For woman and man, a place at the table, revising the roles, deciding the share, with wisdom and grace, dividing the power for woman and man, a system that's fair. For young and for old, a place at the table, a voice to be heard, a part in the song, the hands of a child in hands that are wrinkled, for young and for old, the right to belong. For just and unjust, a place at the table, abuser, abused, with need to forgive, in anger, in hurt, a mindset of mercy, for just and unjust, a new way to live. For everyone born, a place at the table, to live without fear and simply to be, to work, to speak out, to witness and worship. For everyone born, the right to be free. And God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy, compassion and peace. Yes, God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy.
Thank you, Marion and Bob. Elizabeth is going to finish today for us with playing again. So thank you, Elizabeth. When I Needed a Neighbour, Were You There? I wish you every blessing in this coming week ahead. God bless everyone.
The hymn this week is When I Needed a Neighbour, Were You There?